Thank you for having me here. So what I'm sharing with you today is the result of a research endeavor that me and my colleagues at the University of Padua and the University of Venice, we have been doing in the last 6-7 months about how SMEs, Italian SMEs, are reacting and using digital technologies as a way of coping with COVID-19, so after the pandemic. For us was a key issue because what even Luca asked is related with to a new competitive scenario. COVID changed sales channels, reshaped markets. So the competitive scenario, small and medium firms are competing and is totally different. So we have to take into account also this huge change. So the main idea is to understand how small and medium firms are dealing with this new scenario that is really relevant to what is now called the new normal, the fact that the world has changed, the international commerce increased in terms of costs. We think about transportation costs, they're really, now the prices are really high. So a lot of taken for granted elements that were true before the pandemic now are changed. So small and medium firms have to adjust. And the second question is to understand how, which is the role of new technologies in this new scenario, how and if firms are using these new technologies for coping with this scenario. So having this in mind, we have been doing a research that has put together a qualitative analysis of case studies of firms. So we have been doing interviews to CEOs and entrepreneurs, and quantitative studies. So we have been doing this survey to almost 250 firms out of a representative sample of the 2,000 firms. And we wanted to analyze both top performers and average performers. Usually when we refer to small and medium firms, we think that they are all the same, but there's a lot of variation between these categories. So we have firms that are doing very well and firms that they have hard times dealing with the market. So there is a huge difference among these categories. So we wanted to understand how the top and the average were performing on these two elements, so COVID-19 and the use of digital technologies. So the first thing that we wanted to understand is the impact of the crisis, of the pandemic. So COVID-19 has a huge impact. So almost the majority of the firms had experienced a reduction of the turnover, of the global turnover, although there are the almost 40% are pretty much saying that their turnover was stable and or increased. So there is a minority of firms that have increased, and there is not such a difference between top and the average part of the sample. So they're pretty much the same. There is a little bit more of companies that they are top performing, that they increased the turnover. So pretty much they are quite the same. What is really interesting is the fact that the pandemic has increased the investments in R&D, in research and development. So due to, even in this difficult time, a lot of firms increased their investments. Again, the top performers slightly performing a little bit better than the other. But definitely there is an interest of the firms in investing on changing their innovation processes and to invest more, even though in a difficult financial moment like the COVID-19. In terms of new technologies, so we have been asking to the firms how they increase their use of digital technologies ranging from the traditional ICTs to the Industry 4.0 during the pandemic. So what we, and here are the huge differences, what we discovered is that a lot of firms, although they are still investing in many areas, they understood that the first priority was to rewire with their clients, with their networks, and so to increase communication. So that was, and then we will see it, that was a really confirmation even from the case studies. So the firms that they said their first priority was to talk to clients, to interact with them, to stay close to their markets, even though their shops were closed or during the hard lockdown was impossible to, to use the traditional channels. And that has an increase in the, what we can call the communication technologies. So the C of ICT was the most important part. So websites, social media, and CRM, so customer relationship management, and cloud solutions for doing that. So what we can call the traditional ICTs, that they were really strongly used and they were very, very important for keeping relationship alive. And also for developing new things, because a lot of the firms starting to develop new products, new services throughout this opportunity to interact. Of course, e-commerce was important and was pushed, obviously, from this crisis. All the Industry 4.0 were important, but considered in relation to the old technologies, the ICTs were less important in this crisis, although companies are investing. So there is a huge difference here in the ability of using ICTs in terms of communication between the top performers and the average performers. So what we see here is the ability not only of using technologies, but the ability of communicating. That is really an important skill for small and medium firms. So or even the old ICTs were crucial, were relevant for dealing with, coping with this crisis. In fact, digital technologies really supported the human relations. So they were at the base of the interaction with employees, clients, suppliers. A lot of the interviews that we made, they underline the importance of staying in touch with the employees because of the lockdowns, the smart working, to keep them involved in the company, to keep them their morale high, and to be active. So that was important, with the same importance as the clients. Suppliers a little bit less. And here again, you may see the ability of top performers of dealing with open up relationship and to use digital technology to support relationship. What the company told, the entrepreneurs and CEOs told us, is that the pandemic increased their communication, the communication intensity especially with clients. So they talk more with their clients. In the past, they used the fairs, and face-to-face interactions. So there were not too many in the year. Now they are interacting each and every day through digital technology. That was a huge change for small and medium firms. In terms of market, it's interesting that one company out of two in terms of top performance, they use these prizes for innovating the product and the service in the same market. So to increase the quality of the product, I would say. They also started new products, totally radically new products. And they started also to address new markets at a less extent. But again, it was really a lot of entrepreneurs told us that just after the first 2 weeks that were a shock for them in terms of the pandemic blocked everything, they really started to think to their companies in a different way, to think, to innovate, to use this now available time to increase the innovation of their companies. Also, a lot of companies try to change their business model, especially again using the new interaction with also clients. A lot of started to add new services. Digital technologies help them to put new services at play to related to the product. They worked in strict contact with their clients, so with co-creation methodology, and they invest a lot on customization at a less extent, so it's a marginal use of paper use, so new business model where you can pay just the use of the product that are not very common. Again, top performers are more higher intensity in each and every item of this research. We even try to make some clusters of firms, small and medium firms, dealing with two main dimensions. One is the servitization, so the fact that you're adding services to your product. Even if you have a very traditional product, you can add service. So there is some company that they produce flour for making bread, and so they are able to give an app to their clients. So the clients of their clients can book bread and to buy bread even in the evening because they booked through the app. So they give new services to even a very simple product like flour. And there's companies that are doing a lot, or some they're doing not a lot. The diversification is to start to explore new markets, completely new markets. So there is a clusters of companies that are suffering a lot from these COVID-19, so they are not doing anything. So they do not try new markets and do not try to innovate the product. There are two clusters that are in the middle. So they start some diversification, they start some servitization, and there is the cluster 4 that has been doing a lot in terms of business model innovation. There are the majority. This cluster has the majority of the firms. That is quite good news. And on average, the companies that are part of this cluster, they have the higher quota of increased turnover firms. So the one that benefit from the crisis, they have the higher proportion of a B2C, so able to interact directly with their clients, and the ones that are investing more in R&D and digital technologies. So there are the companies that are using technologies and innovation at a greater extent to innovate their product and to reach new markets. Just a quick result of the qualitative part. So in our interviews, we run an analysis of the text because we have the script of all the interviews, and so we analyze the most used words by our interviewee, and the striking evidence was that customers, clients, people were the main concern of at least Italian SMEs. So the fact that during the pandemic, their obsession was to reconnect with customers in a new form. And that attention to even to their employees, to the people. So it was quite a humanistic revolution in a sense, the fact that they want to connect in a better way. Mainly the companies that we interviewed, they use 3 main families. Video conference, but it is obvious because we are using video conference as well today to interact on daily basis with their customers, with their clients, especially during the pandemic. The customer relationship management technology is for having a more structured and more disciplined way of dealing with consumers, with customers, and also to develop new service. So to keep your customers informed about new products, to propose them in a better way. And at the end, to e-commerce, to completely change their sales channels and to sell directly to the final customer. That was really a great innovation because a lot of small and medium firms, they're dealing not with their final clients with intermediaries. And these intermediaries, they really can be a distance between them, their clients, and with new technologies, they're able to interact directly, and so also to improve their services in a better way. So I will stop here because I completed my 15 minutes. I hope to have brought some data useful for the discussion.